Directors, Sarah.
Hanson.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Stankowski. Here. Zebro.
Here.
Barnes.
Here.
Kaiser.
Here.
Hermaning.
Here.
Gorman.
Here.
Maple. Here. All present.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll seek an approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
We have a motion by Gorman, second by Zebro to approve the agenda. Any updates, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we go to the student board report, I just want to make an announcement to the community as well as to the board. With regard to the matter of the resignation of the high school girls basketball coach, the school board has initiated a conversation with the school district attorney, and he is in the process of conducting an investigation, having interviewed a number of individuals already in the community, and that will continue through Wednesday of this week at least. I've been in touch with Mr. Dietrich as late as 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it is his intention, as well as Diane's and mine, that the school board will hear a comprehensive report from Mr. Dietrich in closed session, perhaps as early as next week in a closed session special board meeting, unless a decision is made to handle it differently between now and then. So that is the reason that issue is not on the agenda for discussion, nor in closed session for tonight. Okay, so please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be back to share some news with you all. We all enjoyed our winter breaks and are having a great new year back at school. The students worked very hard during finals week to get caught up with everything. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of people share their schedules with one another, and the excitement the second semester is starting to build. Student Senate recently had an executive meeting where we talked about our plans for Winter Carnival, and we started putting up locker signs for our members. Also, Student Senate has so graciously donated goods to the Center of Hope and another organization. FCCLA also had a meeting last week with their officers to talk about the resource closet. Mosinee Athletics has been a hit lately, with many students attending wrestling, hockey, and basketball games. And a special shout out to our Mosinee dance team for winning bronze at their latest competition at Freedom High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. Missed you last month. Okay, thank you. We have a special presentation, item 6A, discussion, high school band Rose Bowl presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. Tyler Schuster. I'm the high school band director over at Mosinee High School. Happy to be here. Before I even get started with this, I just want to say thanks for approving this trip in the first place. As you're about to see, it was an awesome experience.
It's great seeing you on national television.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I got pictures and all that stuff stored away, so I appreciate that as well. Okay, so first off, you'll see on the right side there, the Northwoods Marching Band logo. So what that was the name of the group that Mosinee was a part of with other schools around central Wisconsin. We have all the schools listed on the right side. Antigo, DC Everest, Lakeland, Merrill, Mosinee, Northland Pines, Three Lakes, and Wausau East. So it's a total of 8 schools, 10 directors, kind of made this whole thing come together. By the end of it, it was just under 400 students from around central Wisconsin to make this thing happen. Okay, so part of the planning process here, a lot of the planning for this trip happened before I was even hired here in Mosinee. The president of the Rose Parade, Amy Wainscott, she is a graduate from Northland Pines High School up in Eagle River. So she reached out to the band director and superintendent over at Northland Pines said we would love to get a group from Northland Pines High School involved in the Rose Parade. However, most groups in the Rose Parade are, 150 plus students. Northland Pines, if you're aware, probably not gonna hash out a band quite that size. So we and Amy and the director kind of hashed a plan to make a super band. Is what we're gonna kind of call it going forward. So Forrest Mann, he's the director over at Northland Pines, reached out to my predecessor Kurt before any of this, and then together they kind of gathered all the schools to see who was interested. And that was that. So this is all the directors who ended up going on the trip. There's Mr. Mann from Northland Pines, Burish, he's the DC Everest Junior High director, Bethany Puffer, she's at Three Lakes, continuing right, Rob Perkins in the back from Wausau East. This is Ashley, who I can never say her last name, Buchachik. She was the Merrill color guard coach, and she did all the color guard choreography for the trip. Joe Finnegan over at Everest, Ellie Wilk, myself, Ellie Wilk's from Merrill, Austin Capel from Anago, and then William Richter from Lakeland Union. And then another big helper to this was Mike LaCrone. He was the UW-Madison marching band director for over 50 years. Actually, it's 50 years in the dot, sorry. And he wrote us our piece, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, that we played for every single parade. So that was a big, that was an honor. He's a legend, not only in Wisconsin, but in the whole marching band community nationwide. So the piece he wrote us, it was a little bit of a mashup is what I'm going to call it. So it was Beautiful Wisconsin. It was just a mashup of America the Beautiful and then On Wisconsin. I just copy and pasted the first few measures there, some of the parts. And we initially received the music in May of last year, rehearsed it pretty much in June together as a full band, only 3 days, but then we each did our individual work as well with our own small groups. And then we performed it during every parade on the 4th of July, and then the actual Rose Parade itself. Just walking you through the rehearsal schedule here of what this took. And these are only the full group rehearsals, so these are not including the times where I just gathered just the Mosinee kids. So we had 3 in June, that just prepared us for the 4th of July, and then once a month from August through November, twice in December, and then we were off. Sorry, these are just all the performances I'm going to walk through here. So 4th of July, this is our crazy first performance. For those of you that drink Bubbler, I thought this was a kind of funny thing to include here. Bubbler was a sponsor of one of the parades, I think I gotta think here. I think it was in Eagle River. And they had a new flavor coming out, so they said, all right, everyone that marches in the parade gets to try our new flavor before everyone else. So the band got a case of Bubbler after they sweated that one out. So we did 6 parades that day. That is not a typo. I think we left Mosinee at 6:30 in the morning that day in order to get to Three Lakes on time. Yeah, over 17 miles of marching and playing by the time it was all done. I think we got back here at 9 p.m. Long day, tired legs. You'll see I put there that was the best practice for the Rose Parade for sure. Just getting marching in the whole day. That was also the hottest day. The actual Rose Parade day was not nearly as hot as this day in early July. I also want to take a moment to thank our band boosters as well, make you guys aware of that organization. They provided lunch for every single member of the Mosinee band that day. 2 parents in particular drove around in their SUV with Jimmy John's and chips and water and everything. They met us at Quick Trip and they had everything set up, ready to go by the time we needed them, so that was very awesome. And then towards the trip, each city donated $2,000 to $3,000 just towards helping the band. Most of this money right here that came from Parade Day ended up paying for a semi-trailer crew to drive everything down to Pasadena for us. If you can think of the size of a tuba, you don't want to put that on a plane.
No.
That with all the percussion, yeah. So we needed to hire a semi crew, and the 4th of July pretty much paid for that on its own. So it was a really nice token from all the cities there. Okay, so BandFest. This is something that many people know about the Rose Parade, but not a lot about BandFest. So this takes place at Pasadena City College about 2 days after we arrived. We arrived on the 28th. And what this is it's just kind of let all the bands show off on a football field. So if you think about the marching band show that you might see at a Mosinee halftime show, this is that, but with 380 plus kids. So what we do is we lined up in a giant formation. We just made a giant NW for Northwoods, and we performed a few pop tunes. Do I have time to show just us marching out for a little bit of that? Or? Okay, great. Maybe, am I gonna hit that ad?
And we are just so proud to welcome Northwoods Central Marching Band.
So this is just our percussion in the back there. You can see it's spanned pretty much the entire football field this way. So. Can I get rid of this echo somehow? Yeah, it's like that. You also notice that every school wore their own uniforms. Yeah, it's a really cool touch.
Really pick them out.
Yeah.
With the same task, right?
Yep, the same, the feather coming out of the Shako is called a plume. So we worked on getting matching Shako wraps, and plumes are one. So on your left, that's an N, it kind of cuts off a little bit. My big task for the band was writing all this out for all 390 people, so I spent 3 hours with energy drink and just pounding this out. So then once we got there, I went to a few pop tunes, so I'll just play just about 20 seconds of the first one here. Yeah, so we did that for about solid 10 minutes. Yeah, can you guys hear that echo from the computer up there? Sorry if you.
That sounds good.
Sounds pretty good.
What's full screen? FN F11. Okay, got it. Okay. Then a few days later, it was actual Rose Parade Day. This was before our picture. I was like, all right, everyone, quick, pose for a picture. You know, that's what you get when you when you ask a group of high schoolers that. So we took a more official picture later with everyone, which you'll see at the end. So just kind of walk you through how crazy of an experience the actual Rose Parade Day is. So everyone gets up in the hotel, puts on their uniforms at about 3:30 in the morning, and then we all get in a bus and drive about 45 minutes to Pasadena. And we were staying in Anaheim for the trip. So stage one for the Rose Parade, what that is your buses show up and they line you up. That's basically just to make sure everyone is there. Yeah. And then when they give you the okay, you're good to go to stage two. So what that was is, this was really cool for me and for the kids. I was freaking out a little bit. So they have like 4 to 6 motorcycles with police lights on both sides of you, and they just speed ahead and they escort you to stage two, which was about a mile away. So kind of getting that police escort at 6 in the morning to see all those kind of flashing lights, and it kind of really revved the kids up as far as like, hey, this is really important, what we're doing here. So they enjoyed that. Stage two, basically everyone gets out of the bus finally, warms up, puts their instrument together. We had a custom banner made up in Wausau. I can't think of it's right by Wiggly. I can't think of the name of the place. Yeah, they made our custom Northwood Marching Band sign. Sorry?
I think it's Graphic House.
Yeah, I think that was the place. So we had a steel frame that we needed to put together by hand, and basically everyone's running everywhere, and it's hectic. And after that, you line up, you chill out for a bit, and parade steps off at 8 in the morning. And we were 22nd in line that morning. All right, there's me. There's my fun.
Oh, for president.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah,
Looks like a politician.
yeah. You're about the 300th person to tell me I should run for president. All right, so I'll show just a little highlight video here. We'll just go through about a minute here. Somebody was nice enough. This person stitched together all of our appearances.
Welcome, Express Clydesdales. And behind them is the Wisconsin Northwoods Marching Band. And this is an interesting story because Amy, of course, originally was from Wisconsin. There wasn't a band big enough to be in the Rose Parade, so she went around all around Wisconsin, put together several schools, and that's what makes up this Northwoods Marching Band playing together on the Rose Parade for the first time. Let's listen in. Yeah, great story. They put together 8 high schools from across north central Wisconsin. And Amy personally went to each of those schools, recruited the kids from those schools. One of the schools only had 6 people in the band program, but they're here.
They're about to make that turn. I love watching the bands make that turn because you can see how much precision goes into just the marching alone.
Well, you can see that not all the uniforms are the same. That's because they're wearing each of their own school's uniforms.
So yeah, obviously y'all have the agenda here, so you can watch the rest of that. I highly encourage you to. Yeah, Ben, it went about as great as you could possibly think. I also joked here. Not really, actually, no, it wasn't a joke. Everyone loved it. At the end, every director and every student gets In-N-Out Burger at the end.
There you go.
So your reward for marching 5.5 miles on national TV is some delicious burgers. So yeah, and they got that process down. They had about 8 food trucks lined up for us. So all right, and then so there's about close to 1 million live spectators there, and then this overpass near the end. So the last half mile of the parade, you go underneath this overpass, and the tradition is every band does this, which means, okay, play as loud as you possibly can, and then the echoes from this overpass is just like overwhelming. And for me as a music nerd, it was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Yeah, so that's when all of our directors kind of lost our minds for a second, and the kids were like, what are they doing? Yeah. All right, and then lastly here, I just want to show some non-performance highlights. Just it wasn't all rehearsal, it wasn't all music. We got to experience some sightseeing. So we did some Hollywood exploring as well. I didn't get I took a picture of the actual Hollywood sign, but they found a mini one to take a picture by as well. The left is when we left from the Mosney parking lot. So that was our here we go. On New Year's Eve, we had a formal night. As well, so we stuck everyone in in the ballroom in the hotel. They fit us all in there. Had a nice little buffet for everyone. They cleared the floor for a dance floor as well for all the kids. No, I did not get on the dance floor. These I just want to spend a couple seconds on. So those heads you see on the drums with the stickers. Every band who attends the Rose Parade, you get custom drum heads. Donated to the program as well, which is kind of a cool token. And they actually sound great, so I was like, sweet, we'll keep them on until we can't use them anymore. And I also want to acknowledge that we had help from our middle school director, Tessa Knetter, and one of our parents, Lori Ramsey. They helped write us some grants. So those drums as well, the actual shells of the drums, those are brand new as well. We were able to get about $13,000 of grant money to help fund the percussion this year. So we're like, we're going to the Rose Parade, we might as well try and get some new instruments if we can. So thankfully, those grants worked out. So those are some brand new percussion equipment as well. Wrapping up here, Universal Studios, obviously the mystery gang over there. And then the top middle, those are just all of our chaperones that came on the trip. They were awesome. Just really want to acknowledge them. And then right here, this is Beverly. She was our bus driver for the whole experience, and the kids really bonded with her as well. So I think we're wrapping up here. There's me getting off the Incredicoaster at Disneyland. And then this is the group picture with everyone. I should have made it bigger in hindsight, but I'm over here somewhere. And then, yeah, so that's everyone, drum majors, band directors, everyone in front of the actual Rose Bowl Stadium. So, again, thank you for approving this. It was awesome. Not many bands get to go on this, regardless of size, so much less smaller communities like us. So, thank you.
Item number 7 is the approval of the minutes.
I will so move.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Kaiser, second by Zebro, to approve the minutes from the December 20th meeting. Any corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public forum. Anybody?
Yeah.
Mr. Lesniak.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. My name is Dan Lesniak, and I live at 816 Spring Road. And I'm here to address two items, item 13B and 14E on the agenda. Most of the time will be spent on the first item. And I should be able to complete this within the typical 3-minute period. As a longtime teacher and representative for teachers, I'm encouraged to see the information in the board packet surrounding item 13B. Two items connected to this, that when I hear my coworkers talk, that they're waiting for more clarification on include initial placement on the new schedule and also more detail on how professional development will be tied into advancement on the schedule, including PD that they may have already done or PD that they're interested in doing during the rest of the school year and beyond. Many of my coworkers I know are following the board discussion on YouTube tonight and any possible decision that may come out of tonight's discussion. Passage of item 13B can be the first step in creating a new schedule that fixes some of the unexpected flaws that slowly became apparent over time in the old schedule. As we're entering the second half of the school year, our dedicated teachers are very curious about what next year will look like. I'd like to thank Mr. Munoz and all of his advisory team in the district office for their work on the proposed schedule. The second item is item 14E. As a daily pool patron, I'd like to express my personal thanks to whoever the anonymous donor is that's coming forward on this. The pool lockers, it was the item listed in the board packet, and this donation will hopefully be a good step forward in making improvements to those original 1996, just kind of starting to get rusty and difficult to maintain lockers in there, and that should be a good step forward for both students using the lockers and community members using the lockers. So, good evening and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Item number 9 is the consent agenda.
I will make that motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Gorman, a second by Kaiser to approve the consent agendas. Any items to be pulled out this evening? Personnel, finance, nothing from, very good. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and possible decision, approval of the monthly voucher list.
I'll make the motion to approve the monthly voucher list.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Hanson, a second by Zebro. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Gorman,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Stankowski.
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Hermaning,
Yes.
Maple. Yes. Barnes,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
All yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 11, discussion and possible decision, acceptance of the monthly treasurer's report.
I'll make the motion to accept the monthly treasurer's report.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Hanson, second by Kaiser to accept the monthly treasurer's report. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Gorman,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Hermaning,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Maple. Yes. Barnes,
Yes.
Stankowski. Yes. Kaiser,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
All yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 12, is discussion, school board superintendent communications. Mr. Munoz, before you give your report, speaking for the school board, we again want to thank the PTO again for the generous donation last month. Also want to thank the MEA for their beverages gift card that was sent recently to all school board members. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Munoz.
I have 3 items, and first of all, congratulations to the high school band. It's really an amazing act. Former band member myself. I've been in the marching band in and out of school when I was in high school and even post high school. So it's an exciting. You can see that from Mr. Schuster. So thank you to the band boosters, the parents, the students. It's a lot of sacrifices with a lot of people in order to get this to that point. So congratulations to them. Next point, the HVAC units are here for the middle school project. That's about 3 months early, based on some delays. So thank you very much, Mr. Kaiser, for all of your work behind the scenes in order to arrange this piece. So as I list right there, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of this project, right now we were on a little bit of a kind of holding still until these HVAC units came in. You can't get occupancy with the unit until these things are up and running. So now that they're on site and in place, then we can start some finishing pieces. Mr. Kaiser's already started some tours inside of the facility because we are on some finishing work. So I know some students and staff had started to go through. I know he's starting to take staff through as well. And then we'll open it up, obviously, to anybody else as we start to paint and do some of the last things. The flooring would be obviously the last piece. So phase 1 is the middle school commons cafeteria piece. I was peeking in there today a little bit, and they were finishing some last pieces of brick. Then they're going to start to move and get into finishing work. We're anticipating end of February opening, maybe early March as a tentative timeline. Right now, just that is really good news because we were tentatively delayed to the end of April without those HVAC units coming in. So there's a trickle effect. We can start moving parking, assisting community members, and the pool parking situation, the staff parking situation can start to resolve itself. So we're excited about getting phase 1 and starting to use that facility, not just with our students, but also the community this winter yet. So that's an exciting development, and I'll make sure to keep the board updated about that. Phase 2 is going to happen and start as soon as we open up that facility. Phase 2 is going to be the tear out of the old cafeteria. And we're going to rebuild that once again to be a special education space and a pupil services zone. So that tear out, that's phase 2, that's going to start in earnest as soon as we open up the new facility. Phase 3 will finish in the summer, which is where the certain special education staff are right now, is going to be rebuilt into classrooms, and then some music areas are also going to be redone. So that's phase 3 that'll lead us into the start of the next school year. So that's the entire project. So we're just excited about these carrier units being there, and Mr. Kaiser was directly involved in getting them here a couple of months earlier than expected. So thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Take the carrier. Now we know where he is.
That's where he was. One of the pieces listed down here at the bottom, Alyssa Garley, along with spearheaded community outreach. There were 85 different students in the district that were impacted by this generosity. As you listed, 14 different community and school donors, 17 families, 4 families at that dollar amount, and 13 families with miscellaneous gifts. So all in total, at the last board meeting, I think you saw a lot of these gifts and a lot of things. They were in the process of being delivered immediately after that. So, you know, it wasn't just our staff, but of course our staff were directly involved, including our social worker and a lot of others in the district, plus other community donors. So that was an outstanding activity. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Munoz? Thank you. Is that last item that was up there about the donations or support for the community, is that something that, and I probably missed it, were school board members aware that that was an opportunity we might have been able to get involved in ourselves? Or said a different way, is that something that could be shared with school board members in advance? Does anybody remember necessarily seeing that? Because maybe I'm the only, okay.
Yeah, there used to be something when I arrived, but once we have the social worker, Mrs. Garley has really done a good job of quarterbacking and centralizing it and expanding it a little bit. So since I've arrived, there's always been some of this.
Okay.
But Mrs. Garley has done a good job of centralizing it and expanding it, and then getting connections, continue to expand the connections in the community. So it's definitely something that we
Just
can
to
do.
maybe get that out
Yep.
there, a little, even among the board members
It'll also
for
be
this year.
It'll also be something in a link article that I'm writing.
Okay, good.
So I'll be getting that out public.
Excellent. Item 13A, discussion and possible decision, school calendar for the 2023-2024 school year.
Yeah, I've received a lot of feedback since this version of the calendar, and I'm just gonna reach out to the elected members of the board, obviously, and some of you are parents as well in the district. The feedback that I've received has been all over the place with start of school and the break over Thanksgiving. So I really have 3 questions I'd like to give a little bit of feedback from the board in terms of discussion, and then we can kind of set this up a little bit. September 1st, this particular calendar, September 1st is a Friday. September 1st is the first day that we can start school. And on this particular calendar, there's quite a few staff that I had talked to, and parents especially, that are like, well, you're gonna make the kids come to school for one day, and then we have this big weekend? Question mark. Okay, that's gonna be one question that I'd be interested in some feedback on. The second question is going to school into June. But that's one question. The last question is going to be days of school the week of Thanksgiving. And the reason those are the 3 questions that really are going to form the feedback that I'm looking for is I have received some great feedback from staff, from multiple buildings, and some in this room, which is great, and some out of this room because staff just email and they send detailed things, and I listen and I'm like, well, okay, that Thanksgiving break was popular. It's uncommon, right? Most districts go to school Monday and Tuesday. We did it this year and made it work out, but it really shorted our snow days and our weather days, which we're kind of coming into right now. It rains in January and there's snow coming later this week, so we'll see. So part of the re-engineering of a calendar was to build more days into the calendar. So the feedback that I'm really looking for from the board, and I've received some from the staff as well, is September 1st. What this calendar does at 175 is it adds 2 days on each of those totals, which gives us a buffer that it feels like we're going to need.
When some of the schools go virtual, then that doesn't affect them. Would that be something that you would look to doing in the future? Because don't we have more of a buffer for the younger kids, right? The elementary school we've got extra days there, but it's really the middle and high school kids that we can get, make close.
Yeah, the virtual You make a good point. You're absolutely right. That when districts do virtual days, those days don't count against them. They're actually counting all of the time as contact time, which in my experience in this district, virtual learning, it's just not popular. It's not popular at all with our staff, with our students, with our parents. That if it's a snow day, it's a snow day.
With your board.
With the board. If there's a need for us to make up the snow days, we actually have a built-in way on May 1st. So this year, let's use this year as an example. We've used all of our high school days. We have 1 day left at the middle school, 1.5 day left at the elementary right now. But we have that May 1st day available if I need it, or we could always add days in June, which is what they did in Stevens Point just last week. They just added days in June. So right now, the feedback that I'm really looking for is September 1st, going to school in June, and Thanksgiving. I mean, if it's a hard no, to having school over Thanksgiving break, then there's only so many things that we can really do. Then the answer is pretty clear.
Remind me, when does summer school start? That first week of June or that second week?
Yeah, it's not the first week. It's at earliest the second week, but it's more like the third week. It's not the first week.
Okay, so it'd be like the 10th then.
Yes. For sure. 100%.
Because it's 3 weeks.
I don't like.
3 weeks gap, 3 weeks.
And that it's good feedback, because I think what we can do, if I get enough feedback from the board, I am definitely going to have received good feedback from the teachers. If I just get some more directed feedback, then I can go in a certain direction. Meaning this model, it's good, but there's no school on September 1st on this model.
Why not this type of a compromise, obviously?
Yep.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but about 55%-ish of the staff are from Mosinee. So the others are from other districts. And do other districts, you said they don't have off all of Thanksgiving week?
Most don't.
Some do.
So-
I know one that does.
So, what if you do, if they don't wanna do the September 1st, because, yep, that's Labor Day, and I know a lot of families will still do a vacation into that.
Mhm.
But what if you just go to school on November 20th and no school the 21st? So yeah, it is 1 day,
Bless you.
but then you're still having off on September 1st. But then you do have that 1 day of school November 20th. Because if some of the staff's kids still are in school anyway in other districts potentially, but some of ours are not, I mean, you still gotta find that happy medium with that week anyway.
I was thinking that too. At least 1 day in Thanksgiving week.
Yeah,
So-
the reason it's good, I just wrote the note down, 11/20 only. The reason I threw 2 days in is that all of the large districts around us do the 2 days. And but not all the districts,
And the university,
and the
which
university.
ties in with Point's schedule.
Right. And, but I want to be very transparent that I have had definitely some teachers reach back and say, that Thanksgiving break was amazing.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
I mean, and I enjoyed it as a
Right.
parent also.
I mean, I've heard that feedback, and I want to put that out there.
So when do we have to approve this calendar by, for sure?
It doesn't, I think February would be a hard deadline. What I'm really looking for is, if I'm on the right path, maybe this is the calendar.
Then why don't we ask parents? Get their feedback. I mean, some people travel, some people don't. It just depends. I mean, you're not gonna make everybody happy, but there's gotta be a compromise somewhere in the middle.
But aren't the traveling families going to just decide to take their kids
They
out
very
of
well
school
may.
anyway?
They will.
Yeah.
They will. And
But
the
at least
same
they're
with
listening.
Thanksgiving week too. If they decide not to go, you don't have to go. Pretty much, correct, to high
Yeah.
school?
I mean, this calendar, the way that it sits right now, this calendar works. It's 175 days. It adds 2 days of student contact time, and it reduces flex days, which is something that I've talked to some staff about. I've talked to Mr. Way about it from a professional development perspective. So this works from a professional development perspective, but it also gives us our built-in snow days, and it starts after September 1st. So this calendar in front of you, this works, but I received enough feedback from teachers, and it was good, and I responded to them. The teachers sent me emails, and I'm like, hey, wow, that's a great idea. Then the teacher, one teacher at the high school wanted to go down and talk to this teacher and to that, and I'm like, okay, and then there was more, and great feedback. So, and some of it I think centered around Thanksgiving, which I know is a change from what we did for 1 year, but we only did this year.
So this calendar has 5 snow days, unlike our 3 this year.
Yes.
So,
It builds in 5 for the high school, it would build in 6 for the middle school, and 6.5 minimum for the elementary school.
it's a gamble, but nobody can predict the weather, nobody knows the future.
Right.
What if you just leave as is,
Mhm.
with the 2 days off then, and you go down to 4 snow days for the high school?
That's what I,
So it's one less, it's more than what we have now, but less than
that.
one, yeah.
Did we have, we had school on the 2nd, right? January 2nd?
Yes.
This year.
Yes. This year we do.
The school year we're in right now, 2 weeks ago, we had school on the 2nd,
yep.
Yep.
Yes.
right? Which was an official US government holiday,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So obviously, and I'm not advocating that we would have school on January 1st, for sure. That wasn't where I was going with this. I was just trying to think about, why, obviously I was part of the board when we approved the Scout calendar for the one we're in right now. I don't have a dog in this hunt at all.
Right.
Not opposed to taking it to the parents. I think you're gonna get probably as much variation as from our staff. It seems to me. I'm less inclined to think that there's a big difference between the 1st of September and one day the week of Thanksgiving. To me, those seem like it's one day. Yes, I realize the first one is before the school year really kicks in, but that's why I made the comment that
for
it seems
younger-
people would just take off.
Younger kids, getting them in for one day, kind of getting acclimated, here's school, and I think there's somewhat of a benefit there, instead of all of a sudden, boom, they land, and now it's going. I'm not a teacher, so maybe teachers would say, no, that's a crazy idea.
There was an argument that came up with some of the principals when I had a all admin meeting to talk about this. Several of the administrators were like, wait, that's September 1st, that's a helpful thing. I mean, if we start September 1st, that buys us a day back for Thanksgiving break, maybe eliminate them both, like Mrs. Maple was suggesting. And then you have 4 days, and you still end before the end of May. So that was a point that came up with several of our staff, which is September 1st is a good transition day. Like, introduce yourself to the kids. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not important, it is, but there's a lot of pieces to it.
Diane?
Well, the only good part about maybe starting on the 1st is you don't have 4-year-olds in school.
Because it's a graduation.
So that helps because just what I see the first couple days is a
Right.
lot of mix-up
The-
about trying to get transportation and get all the kids to the right, because of the shuttling.
Mm.
And so even though we would start with 2 days, it really took us middle of next week before they became comfortable finding their way around, because we're out there 2 weeks with these kids helping them shuttle. So, I mean, if it was starting on the 1st, where you get that Thanksgiving week off.
That's a good point.
Mr. Barnes?
I also don't have a dog in this hunt, but since we're talking about hunting, on behalf of all the sportsmen and women who enjoy deer hunting
There
in the
you
state
go.
of Wisconsin,
Yeah.
God bless the Mosinee School District.
Yeah.
I skipped school every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the week of Thanksgiving from the time I was 11
Of
years
course you
old.
did.
Well, then we might as well have off on the opening day of the Brewers season.
I set my priorities involve deer hunting. It's a cultural phenomenon.
Thank
and I
you
think
for making
it's
that
great
point to the world.
that we give them the week off.
I agree with you.
Well,
2 years ago, we
why-
had to cancel school.
Why don't you take some of that spring break?
Yeah.
And donate it?
Ouch.
Oh, my.
I know there are a lot of districts
So
that
you're
don't
not a
have one, right?
politician anymore.
Yep.
There are districts here right around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't have
you
one.
don't have the full week.
That don't have a spring
Our
break?
Spring break.
Well,
But they get out so early in May.
yeah. So this has been really good discussion. It looks like September 1st is a good day to start.
Yeah.
Having Thanksgiving break off, ending before June.
Makes sense.
But I'd like to throw one thing in, so if there's a motion, if this
It'd be
is
the
part of
problem
the
no matter what.
motion, is that because of leap year and where spring break falls this year, spring break falls the week of Good Friday. So you actually have a leap year, plus you have spring break the week of Good Friday. So that throws some balancing off. So what I'd recommend, and this recommendation, I believe it was from high school staff, is that right, Mr. Halverson? About that we're imbalanced and to shift the end of semester a week.
First and second semester, that's where the June idea came in to balance off the number of days in first semester and second.
So
Right
that
now,
if-
there's an imbalance of about 5 days. If we move it a week later, it'll still be an imbalance, but it'll be the other direction. So that's where the conversation started with the June expansion.
Right, so right now, it's in balance because of the nature of leap year plus how spring break falls. So I would just recommend that the in-service be moved from the 15th to the 22nd, which moves the end of semester a week later, which I believe was the gist of the resolution.
That's not what's on the calendar.
That is not what's on the calendar.
What month are you talking?
January. So what it is there's an imbalance based on, because usually it's a holiday for Good Friday, and then there's a leap year in this calendar. So then it starts to tilt things in one direction, which is more time in first semester than in second semester, instead of it balanced out. So if the end of semester is moved back 1 week, we start September 1st, everybody goes deer hunting the week of Thanksgiving, then we're good to go.
The days that are early release, like end of, first quarter.
Yep.
If we were to make that a full, I'm just from a parent's point of view, a lot of times having to pick up your kid at 12:40 isn't ideal. If you made those full days instead, would we be able to count that as an extra, no?
Half day counts as a full day
Oh, it
already.
does?
I knew where you were
Why is
going.
it all day,
I know,
every
that's-
day, half day?
it's kind of
Well,
as a parent, it is.
I thought maybe we could
I knew
improve
where
a
you were
day,
going.
like adding.
We've all asked
It's a
that
really
question
good-
over the years.
It's a really good
Well,
point.
I think there's value to that. It is instructional minutes, it's not days, correct?
That is correct, so I wanna,
We could add minutes.
But
if
that's how we would
had
do
to.
it for snow days and things like that. And we're done with snow, we're already used up this year for one of the buildings, right?
the high school.
The high school, and so if we have another snow day, the solve is, you're not gonna get a lot of support from the board to add a day at the end of the school year. You're gonna try to do minutes on each day, right? And
Right.
use passing time and all of that.
Right.
So that is maybe a way to blend the conversation that's been going on around this table. You still stick with the 5th of September. You maybe look for all of the week of Thanksgiving off, and you maybe consider looking at minutes during the course of every day.
Well,
I'd rather see it start September 5th, just because when my kids were young, we'd always go camping that weekend, and we would leave we'd leave on the Friday, so. I know it was a lot of.
You have a lot of
about
opinions now
camping,
from the
but-
school board.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you asked?
We're only
I know.
9 and you have 150 staff.
I'm very glad.
Professional staff.
So if it's okay with the board, what I'd like to do is, I think it would be wise if, I think we've got great feedback.
Okay.
If there's not a vote today, that would be great. We'll have a final calendar that we want Thanksgiving off. School in June is not popular. And starting September 1st, most people are okay with it, but not everybody.
I'd say no.
Yeah,
They're gonna say, why go to school for one day?
right.
And then, no.
But because of
But
Diane's
also-
point, it helps with the logistics of the littles, and that can be scary for the littles, so I get that.
I mean, the answer is so you don't have to go to school in June.
But it's gonna be, they're not gonna remember by Tuesday what happened on Friday.
No.
Or Wednesday.
Well, we'll also,
Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, they
You have to
don't.
start
I'm
all
saying if
over
they
again.
go on Friday, you're starting over on the
Yep.
2nd
Yeah, but
and
you got
on the
a lot
5th
more
anyway.
rule ones.
and then to Megan's point, to look at
Oh, I
the
know what
early
you're saying.
release days.
Yeah, what is the point of those days?
Well, it's to build in time
Time
for the staff.
For grading, right?
Yeah, grading, bookkeeping, that sort of thing. And you're transitioning from usually one quarter to another quarter. So it's professional development, staff professional development, But we'll look at it and come back with a final calendar that doesn't have school over Thanksgiving, right? Doesn't have school over Thanksgiving break, and which will make us pretty unique, which is fine. It's popular, so let's keep that rolling. But also for me to look at the early release time in minutes, because that does matter over time, because it is instructional minutes, not days. It is about instructional minutes. That is a very true point.
So the topic is 13A, discussion and possible decision. Do we need a tabling motion for tonight? If we just decide not to have a motion, no one made one.
If it's
We went in.
possible.
Yeah, we went into discussion without having a motion, so I guess we don't really need to do anything.
Correct.
So it'll come back next month.
I think another data point, David, in your research, is to look at historically, those 2 days that we did have school during Thanksgiving week, how many of the students were absent because of mass?
I know some.
It's a lot.
that weren't.
So if there's a lot,
It's a lot.
then yeah, why, that just validates not having it.
It's a lot.
Where did you make your boys go?
But it's,
Only if I was pissed. If they were in trouble, they had to go to school.
Yeah, he got to skip.
Mr. Lesniak, how many years have you been teaching in Mosinee?
This is year number 26.
So you were here when the union negotiated for the Wednesday off. It was that was the year.
Okay.
Yeah, you were a new teacher, you weren't really
I was-
engaged
I was
yet.
sort of
But that
oblivious to
was,
some of that.
96 or 97 was the year that they negotiated, you remember Diane, to have Wednesdays off. And then it was several years later that we went to the whole hunting week off, right?
But we haven't always, because 2 years ago, we canceled school on Monday, Tuesday because of weather.
this is the first year.
No, that was
year.
COVID.
It was COVID year.
COVID year, we canceled for bad weather at Thanksgiving?
It was a COVID cancel.
Because of COVID.
COVID
Because of
numbers.
illness.
There was an outbreak.
I thought there was bad weather.
It was an outbreak.
I think that was my first year.
Okay, item 13B, you have everything you need.
Yes, I do.
Very good. Item 13B is the 13B, discussion and possible decision, 2023-2024 teacher salary schedule.
Yeah, Christy, if you could pull up the slides. I have made some adjustments. These look similar, but I have made some adjustments to these slides since the last meeting. There's been no adjustments other than cleaning up the numbers on the slide that were confusing to people, but the dollars and cents remain, and confusing to me too, they shouldn't have been there. So we took them out, and this remains the same. So it looks a little bit different, but it's the same schedule that we worked out. Starting at 43.5, bachelor's lane, master's lane, and then a third lane. And I'll have the board reference in your paper packets. There was some discussion at the last meeting about a lot of comparable information. So you have quite a bit in front of you right now in terms of comparable information to reference as you choose. Chris, if you go to the next slide. So we're not going to jump into the link this time, but we are using some software to help us with what Mr. Lesniak did present about, which is initial placement. So this whole piece is about initial placement. This program, Dynamico Systems, I think I'm saying that correctly, right, Michelle? That we went with this particular software in order to really help us get at that sort of correct placement. That's exactly what this is. So we're coming at that in a very strategic way. Next slide, please. Couple of things here. There is a change on this, and I believe it's number 1. So with some discussion with staff, it was, I adjusted number 1 because the movement, there's 4 different things that this definitely solves. But it doesn't solve all things, right? And concerns that have developed over time with the salary schedule that was in place. For one thing, is movement at the start of the next school year after the master's degree earned. In my initial slide, it said something to the effect of immediately, meaning if the board made a decision tonight, then tomorrow. So my intent is exactly how I've now rewritten number 1, which is the movement is July 1, right? It's a small point, but it was a good feedback from the staff that I had received. Higher starting pay, for certain it does that. Increasing the top of the schedule, it does that. And providing a third lane for specific staff. The bottom is unchanged. We've looked at several different models, and the board has all the different models that we were looking at as examples. And so what I would say, and what I have written to the board in some communication, I think at the end of last week, is that the model that I am recommending to be approved, by no means is it the top, it wouldn't be the top model in the area, but it is more competitive. It's more competitive with some of our conference and some of our surrounding districts. You go to the next slide, Christy. Professional development. This is a new slide. So this is a new slide 5. So Mr. Way is here, and Rob, and I know Carla and Michelle. So Mrs. McCanowitz, Ms. Brown, and Rob, with several others, have been putting a lot of detail into the professional development team, also brought up by Mr. Lesniak. So they've been talking about professional development and how that's going to look. So every word in here has been put in the way that it's been put in to say, all right, yes, there is going to be a professional development component, but staff, just like it says here, professional educators must be in good standing as defined by satisfactory performance and will not be on a plan or improvement in order to continue to progress through the compensation model. They'll move vertically one tier on the model after each year of teaching based on a positive evaluation, successful completion of approved professional development hours verified on district service days and flex hours. So we're starting to get to be some definition, which is very good. One asked from Mr. Way, who's been working independent of me, which is great, and I appreciate all the work he's put in with Michelle and Carla, is to take this to the next step. You know, if this model is approved today, Rob has asked, Mr. Way has asked to go to the building leadership teams to more completely define that, working with the BLTs. So the teachers, you know, the principals to all have different building leadership teams to start to, am I saying that right, Mr. Rob?
Yes, you are.
Okay. To more fully lock that in. But long and short of it is the salary schedule that's on the first page. People would progress as long as they're completing the professional development hours and or systems that are put into place. They're not on plans of improvement, and they continue to move forward after that. Anything else on this slide, Rob?
I would like to question that
Yes.
bottom paragraph there.
Yeah.
Now, are all the buildings going to be unified in the professional development plan?
Absolutely. That's the intent. But to work with them is just to gain feedback so that we do have one system for all the entire district, all the teaching staff. Correct, Mr. Way?
Yes, I hear what you're saying. There's going to be different perspectives at each building level, and we'll have a unified system in place for allowing for individual building needs.
Yeah. Next slide. You can always go back and ask questions at the end. So this is unchanged. It just shifted to a new location. So this would shift, increase the number of dollars for teacher salaries to about 9.2 million, from where it sits right now at about 8.9 million, give or take. So it's 100,000 more of supplemental pay than what is approved for this year. Next slide. I think there's one or two more. Yeah, so at the end of this, these are all the same. These are unchanged slides. They were just shifted down. I just wanted there to be, there's been a substantial post-employment benefits already approved by the board, in excess of $2 million all put together. I won't go through it word for word, but some substantial post-employment benefits already built in. All right, and then also, yeah, I think that's the last slide. So, and that's the same as before, which is a reminder about health insurance. and Mrs. McCanowitz is working with the Health Insurance Subcommittee on continuing to make improvements to that particular benefit. Questions?
Questions and/or is anyone interested in making a motion for the purpose of a discussion?
I would so move.
You would move, Mike, to approve this proposed salary schedule.
Correct.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Kaiser, a second by Barnes to approve the proposed 2023-2024 teacher salary schedule. Discussion. Include all the things that you just mentioned in response to Mrs. Stankowski?
Yeah, the answer is yes. So behind the scenes, in order to develop a number this number, we, meaning Michelle, Carla McCanowitz, Rob, and more of our business office staff, we had to go through all the teachers individually and see where they could be. That's already been pre-done, like where they could be. But if the board doesn't approve this number and it's, say, a smaller number, which I don't recommend, then that's gonna change. Then we're gonna have to make an adjustment. Right now, so the answer is, it accounts for those master's degrees, a movement on July 1st that are new. It accounts for somebody having a triple bump because they're sitting at 40 and now the minimum's 43.5, but now they're a second-year teacher. So a second-year teacher who started at 40 can't make 43.5. So there's going to be some of those adjustments that need to be made. That's fictitious. I just made that up.
No, but that's a good example
yeah.
because it's what's on my mind.
It's
That's on my mind too.
And those sorts of things are figured in the 325. So the
Okay.
most expensive 1 year of this is going to be the initial year. And in my look back, when I'm historically just looking at numbers, because numbers are what they are, it's ones and zeros, right? When this pay schedule, the one that is coming to an end, was initiated, there wasn't enough money put into it at the start. So there was this, and every teacher can tell you about this story. There's a story with our staff, which everybody gathered in the auditorium before me. So 5 years ago, I think, 6, Dan shaking his head. Everybody gathered in the auditorium and everybody got an envelope. And some people it was a happy envelope and some people it wasn't a happy envelope. Like it was like $0 or $1 or stuff like that. I mean, I've heard the stories for multiple years. So this approach is accounting for those changes.
Jessica, questions?
Diane had.
Diane?
Well, I was just gonna tie into what Mike, I know made the motion and it was seconded, but also.
For the discussion.
Correct, and the question coming about if all the buildings were gonna be unified, but I just don't think this is all complete, because we had questions from Mr. Lesniak from staff, and Megan's questions too. I mean, I would rather see us come back, now that we have the numbers, we know what we're kinda looking at, and answer some of these questions about the movement and the professional development points, and how that's all gonna move. So, I would rather wait and have all the information and have any other questions, because yes, I had my information because we met earlier, but a lot of the board didn't get it until Friday afternoon, and we're meeting tonight. So,
Additionally, how long is this sustainable for, and what does the dream model entail?
Specifically, we believe this is sustainable in perpetuity. Now, that being said, the dream model looks at my conversations with teachers in all the buildings is, while we do solve 4 things, we don't solve them all. And, we costed that, meaning years of service. If I can point to one thing, it's total years of service. And it's something that comes up when I have talked in each of the buildings, at least 2 of the buildings, all of the buildings. So this doesn't solve that, and I want to be clear on the upfront with that. It solves some of it, especially if their service is local only.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but there in the presentation, when you said the dream model,
Yep.
then that could potentially mean at some point in the future that would have to be for an operating referendum.
If the desire, yes.
But that would be $1 million rather than 325,000.
Exactly.
Good question, or good clarification. Is it $1 million on top of 325, Kevin, or $1 million
No,
total?
it would be $1 million total.
Yeah.
So,
The costing that we
Is that
saw.
about right?
To answer the million, we costed years of service in answering all of the questions we thought were in front of us. We thought it was $1 million more
the proposed.
than existing 8.9
Than
million.
existing. Okay.
So about 9.9 million.
3
is
times the proposed.
Yes.
3
Yes.
times the proposed increase.
So 60,000 of this proposal about is a proposed increase to move people from the roughly 40 or 41,000 up to the 44,805. So that's $2,500 to $3,500, $2,500 to $3,500 for this year's 20 new teachers, or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
So roughly 20 times 3,000 is 60 grand.
Yep, that's
So
not,
20% of, sorry,
that's not the only, those aren't the only unique situations.
Of course.
There's you situations in the middle of the schedule, there's situations at the top of the schedule. There's unique situations, having looked at each individual teacher with Ms. Brown, with Mrs. McCanowitz. There are some unique situations, some that got master's degrees last year, and technically they have 4 years to wait before they would receive any bump. Some are receiving master's degrees this year, and they're gonna have an immediate move over. So it has to be done individually if it's going to be done well.
so I told Mr. Munoz and Mrs. Gorman last week during the agenda setting, when they said something, I said, you mean to tell me that the salary schedule, this proposed one, and the ones that the district has operated in the past, that when a teacher is hired and they have their starting salary, they already know what their salary is going to be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, unless the salary schedule is changed? And they said, both said, absolutely. And I said, are you kidding me? I had no idea that that is the way the system worked. Because it's only in these, you know that's true.
That's true.
And I was just incredulous because at the risk of alienating some of the board members tonight, this past summer when in the cafeteria, when this board voted to raise the starting salary for this coming school year to $43,500, in my own mind, I was thinking $43,500 plus whatever the round number, either negotiated or inflation adjustment that the board might be interested or willing to give a starting teacher for this fall. So for me, that was going to be right around $44,700. I'm just saying round number is 3%, right? This is how my mind was thinking. And therefore, it would then move the entire salary schedule up to accommodate annual changes. But that isn't at all how it works. Megan, you and I were perfectly aligned last month when you asked your questions about all of those years and all that, and I didn't realize that at the end of the last meeting, you and I still didn't understand this.
It's essentially a return to when
The
I
old
was
systems.
Yeah, when I was teaching 20 some years ago, you know, a similar schedule to that. It's simplified.
Yep.
There's crossovers
I get it.
between bachelors to masters. It's very clean. We lost several teachers because we couldn't grant immediate movement to master's degrees. So there were certain look-fors that when we were developing this, that we were looking to solve.
Mr. Barnes.
So I now have a pretty good grasp of how one lands, where they land on this salary schedule. Where I'm still confused, and I think we played a game of who's on first at the last board meeting about this, is what process is there, or what would the process be to change these numbers? So if I just pick step 2, under a bachelor's degree, 44,805.
Yep.
10 years from now, I wouldn't think that that number would be 44,805.
For a second-year teacher.
Hold on, so what is it that has to happen in order for those numbers to change? To me, there's 2 possible paths. One is those numbers go up by a percentage that's negotiated to change those numbers through negotiations with the union, or this board just has the ability to adjust those numbers on an annual, biannual, every 3 years, every 5 years, depending on what the economic situation.
And it can't be the former,
Yeah,
because this is
No.
supplemental
This is-
pay, and we can't negotiate supplemental pay.
So negotiations is not any
Right.
part of this.
Okay, so that answers that.
Yes.
So
Right.
then the only way in which these numbers would change, but then I still can't wrap my head around, what are you negotiating then?
So here, I will help a little bit. That when Carla was talking to me about this, one of the problems, I think the old salary schedule could have worked if it had been set for regular review, like every third year or every second year, and maybe adjusted the whole schedule for inflation, or looked at comparables or things like that. We can put that sort of thing into place, like a lot of these different district schedules that you're looking at. I mean, that took an enormous amount of work. Lots of thanks to Mrs. McCanowitz for that. It wasn't me, it was her. But that's the only way that this would change. But I would definitely want to establish at least, maybe 2 years or
Okay, so then, what do you negotiate?
Base
wage.
wages.
And how does base wage impact any of those numbers?
It doesn't, at all.
I'm back to where I started my mind.
Right, which is why last summer, or late spring actually, when we were talking about negotiating a settlement, the conversation was, when we negotiated the new numbers and everything was plugged in and each teacher knew where they were gonna go in adjusting their pay for the school year we're operating in right now, the salary schedule ended.
Yep.
So part of the way that we ended the negotiations last year, which is separate from.
I'm sorry, am I the only one that it just feels like I'm having a hard time understanding this? Maybe I am.
I'm with you.
I figured it out over the last week.
Right.
But that's about
So
it.
it really has to do with state law. I mean, the salary schedule, all that we're looking to put into place to stay competitive, but also to keep our own staff and to encourage and to support, attract and retain is the way that our strategic plan, and that's what I go back to.
Right.
How do we attract and retain? This gives us a shot at attracting and retaining, with the understanding that I think you make a valid point about setting a system for regular review or percentage increase, whatever. We can talk about that at some other time, but that's an important point.
You gotta start somewhere though.
Yeah, we gotta, right, yes.
Jess?
But I think what is becoming clear, since there seems to be a lot of confusion, is that there should not be a decision tonight. With many people confused, because I completely agree in the sense that, yep, last spring it was, that's base wage, that's negotiable, supplemental is not, this was to be done, period.
How about like a theoretical next month, theoretical employee A, how it all would work? A one-page document, how it would work.
But then you also, we, unlike many other districts, have post-employment benefits as well. How can you provide it all? So we got this talk of a dream model.
I think
as
he
well.
was just, correct me if I'm wrong, but the dream model conversation came out of conversations with administrators and some staff perhaps, and it's like, well, could we actually do this? And the answer is we can't, is what I gather.
We actually built the model.
Okay.
That is.
Oh, that applied all of the current years of work.
We built the model that actually has teachers' names on it, that shows an additional $1 million on top of the 8.9 million, with staff members' names on it. We use that as a starting point, because we have to look at fiscal responsibility. It's in the strategic
Yes.
plan.
Well,
So fiscal responsibility, when I looked at that, I thanked them because I asked for it. I said, I need something. Give me something. And they did. And, I gave them the parameters, and when I saw it, I was pounding numbers all weekend. I was texting Michelle, sorry about that, Michelle, because it was the weekend. But I was texting her through the weekend going, okay, we need an option 2 or an option 3. And that's where we started to build back to what you have in front of you right now.
A good way to look at the perfect model is we could approve it in year 1, But the voters of the Moseley School District would be the ones to approve it in the subsequent years, because based on how state aid is working, we would have to have acceptance of an operating referendum to continue that model.
You're saying the dream model.
The dream model.
Yeah.
The
It's
dream
a
model.
10.96%
Yeah.
That's right.
professional staff increase, and that isn't gonna happen. I don't think, Megan.
Well, I'm saying we could approve it one time, but then after that, we wouldn't have the levy to be able to continue it without the approval of our voters.
I don't even think we could do it one time.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I started at that point.
Because we'd be above the levy limits.
It was actually beyond theory, because we were using specific teachers, and we had it worked out. We have the spreadsheet. You know,
Mhm.
Just a
Michelle-
column in a spreadsheet.
It's
Yeah.
a column in a spreadsheet. We worked it out, and we sat and looked at it for hours and said, okay, that doesn't fit with our strategic plan about
Right.
fiscal responsibility.
Megan, did
So-
you have a?
Yeah. What, I see when you're saying attract and retain, I see the attraction, obviously with 43.5, I mean, that's putting us above Everest. But my issue is that if we're hiring new teachers above where our current teachers are, it's not right unless we also bring up the current staff. So are you saying
Correct.
that the current staff would be coming up with this?
That's what this software program
It would
allows them to
individually-
do.
Yes.
The software,
Right.
okay.
It would move the $41,000 staff person in their first year, or whatever they're getting paid this year,
Right, so,
into the 44,805.
okay.
Yeah, we,
So then I can find benefit, in that. Like, but then I'll go back to what Peter said, if we could see an example, you know, one of my child's teacher, fabulous teacher, first year teacher, $40,000, okay, I checked it, that's what she's making. I would want to know that, you know, it's not like someone who's coming in after her is gonna get paid more, she's going to be
Right.
adjusted.
That was not,
Okay.
yeah, so the argument could be made, under the old schedule, the teacher knew what they would be making the second year.
And they're stuck there.
Well,
In
but
the-
but we're talking about adjusting that.
Yeah,
We're not talking about
right,
locking them
right.
into the past.
yeah,
Peter?
just to answer that
Sorry.
from a modeling perspective, we have modeled those pieces. We've modeled those bumps.
Yeah.
But there's several, I want to be clear that that's not all that we're modeling. There's bumps in the middle. There, you know, if somebody was set to have a $3,000 bump and they're sitting at $63,000, we're modeling those things too. So there's other things in the salary schedule. I appreciate everybody's willingness to talk about the start of the schedule, because I see that's demonstrably different. But we've also done modeling
Right.
That's my concern. is
throughout
that-
the schedule. Somebody making 60-some thousand, they're ready for a $3,000 bump. We're modeling that too.
That we're rewarding our
Yes, we're
employees who, you know, have
we're
been here
we're
with us.
not just modeling the start of the year.
I think we all
Okay,
understand
so I just
that
want to,
part.
I
I think we all understand that
Okay.
part.
all right.
You're not gonna have a fifth-year teacher making less than a fourth or third-year teacher.
Right.
That's the point.
Right.
So you talked about, there was a meeting, I don't know, 6 years ago, some good envelopes, some bad envelopes.
yeah.
Are there gonna be any bad envelopes with this model?
You know, I don't believe so.
I was looking here, let's just say somebody was at 46, 150, so $1 more than level 3. The model, is it automatically rounding up, or would it possibly round to the closest?
I mean, we're not gonna let we're involved in that system too, where it's not just completely at the computer.
I just wanted
So
to,
we're looking, like, I'll use the example
that's
with
kind of the reason why
our,
we're here.
it's a good point. It's that there's the human side to it. We're looking at it, and I have posed several questions into the study groups that are going on with Dynamico, and one of them is the easiest things are the things at the start of the schedule. Like if you're 41 or 41,000, anybody below 43.5, those things are pretty easy to figure out. I mean, that's from a mathematical perspective, but it's more complicated when you get into somebody's career and they're making 57 something and they're set to make a $3,000 bump. They know that, we know that, but now we need to make sure that that is reflected in this current schedule. Those things we're modeling as well, and that's what I want to be clear for, especially for the teachers.
I have one more
Yeah.
thing. Just the engineer and me and spreadsheets.
Yep.
Talking about how updating it every couple years. In theory, couldn't we just adjust the three base numbers at the top of each column? The 43.5, you would just bump that up in it all. As long as a board, we're happy with the percentage changes on an annual
just-
basis?
Yes.
We could, of course, do
Yeah,
that. The
yeah.
board can do that.
100%.
So those percentages that are to the right
Yep.
of the dollar amounts in all three columns, that is merely a reflection of how much higher the subsequent sell
Yeah.
down is.
If we were happy with that. It would be
Three of the
easier to
last
discuss.
5 years, before the negotiated year, 3 of the last 5 school years, though, the salary schedule for about 80% of the staff gave a bump that was greater than the actual CPI.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that that's a great system or a bad system. I'm just clarifying that, you know, 3% or 2.5 maybe isn't what you want when you have then a year where there's 5 or 6 or 7% inflation. More to Matt's point. Diane, you had your hand up.
Nope,
No.
I'm good.
Anybody else? We ready to vote? Okay. All in favor of approving the proposed 2023-2024 teacher salary schedule as supplemental pay that would start effective July 1st, 2023 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Division? Anybody want a roll call on that? No, it sounded like a majority to me. Okay,
I have a 7-2, just to clarify.
Is that correct? 7-2.
that's,
I believe it is.
I didn't vote, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So it's
I was
6,
prepared to break a tie one way or the
so
other.
it's 6-2
6-2.
with an abstention?
No, I'm not abstaining. I'll vote for it. It was a clear majority.
7-2 then.
I think it's really important, Mr. Munoz, that your team come back with some really good clarity around not only the how it is going to work, but also even beyond that, the clarity surrounding how your team intends to implement professional development.
Yep.
That is
And
my concern as well.
I think that's part of the proposal is Mr. Way is now gonna go with the building leadership teams in each of the 3 buildings and start to do just that. I believe that was our conversation. Correct, Mr. Way?
I'm prepared to do that, yes, sir. Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Forgot where we are.
We are.
For new business.
New business.
I felt like that was new business. Item 14A, discussion and possible decision, resolution of open enrollment.
Yeah, this is a standard board item. I am recommending approval.
Make the motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Barnes, second by Kaiser to approve the standing resolution on open enrollment for this year. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14B, discussion and possible decision, extended field trip high school choir.
They've filled out all the appropriate information. Looks like a great trip by Mrs. Dool to Nashville. I do recommend approval.
I'll second. Matt made the first.
Sorry.
Sorry, thank you. You have that, Sarah?
First by Barnes, second by Glenn.
Yes, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The folder is there to sign the document, and I signed the field trip document, Sarah, as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 14C, discussion and possible decision, school safety drills.
This is standard board report in terms of Act 143. Do want to draw special attention to, we're one of a very few schools in the entire state that held a threat assessment training conducted by the Department of Justice Office of School Safety. There was follow-through from a committee meeting. That actual group broke out, and I believe there were 36 staff members, not just staff members, but also other districts. I think there were 4 other districts involved, 6 other law enforcement agencies on January 11th. So we were excited about that. We do recommend approval.
Motion by Barnes,
I'll second.
second by Hanson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14D, discussion and possible decision, temporary acting board clerk appointment. With Mrs. Stankowski seeking reelection, and currently the school board clerk, it is customary and I think appropriate to appoint a temporary clerk for that purpose. I've asked Mrs. Baumann and she has agreed to take on that responsibility. I don't think we need to vote on it, do we?
No.
Should we have a motion and a second?
We-
I wouldn't think so. It's a temporary acting position.
Right.
So,
It says appointment, so.
yeah, it does say that, just was making sure.
And we did do this in 2021
Yes.
as well.
Well, and also, Ms. Baumann acted earlier this month to draw names for the ballot.
Yep.
So, in that same capacity. Okay? Item number 14E, discussion and possible decision, acceptance of donation.
We are recommending exception of a $10,000 donation to be used for the operation and maintenance of the swimming pool, as well as upgrades, lockers, and in the locker rooms. So thank you to the very generous, anonymous
Yep.
donor.
Make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Gorman, second by Maple, to accept the pool donation of $10,000. And you'll send a letter, obviously, on behalf of the district.
Yep, emailing about that.
Wonderful. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You know, I was thinking maybe if we were to put something about that, I know you put a general write-up in the link anyway of things that happen at school board meetings, but that, maybe a little bit lengthier about that might inspire a few people to maybe do similar work,
I could sleep it. I could.
rather than just a one-line activity of what the board approved.
I could throw it into my open article on the main page.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Other reports, item 15A, your big week, Mrs.
Yeah,
Zebro.
We do, we got a big week tomorrow. I think there's 7, well, not counting administrators, 7 of the board members headed down. I think the only 2 that are Peter and Matt won't be
Yep,
headed
that is
down.
correct.
And I believe everybody's going to the pre-conference Tuesday, no? Okay.
I'll
Well,
go down there, but not in time.
We'll be signed up anyway,
Point.
Amy should have us all signed up for whatever session you're gonna see. There is, well.
An app.
Yeah, there is an app that you can download on your phone. So, and then there also is in this for us people who like paper, it's in here. So you can see that, and Evers will be talking at one point, and so will Julie, is it? Utterly or whoever the.
Oh, Jill Underly.
Jill.
State
thank you.
superintendent.
Yeah, state superintendent. So, and the rest you got in there, there's gonna be 90 breakout sessions and 250 exhibitors. So get up to the hall and see what you can see. So that really kind of concludes that. I think we're all set up. That David's got some things he sent out an email, so we should kind of all see each other at one point or not. And then in February coming up, the 23rd, Kalahari Resort and Conventions will be a school law conference. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. And you're going to the delegate assembly?
I sure am, yes. And I got all my resolutions and all.
Have all your pins on?
I got a lot.
Tom Brady coming in.
Need a sash.
I should, you're right. Would somebody give me a session?
That's awesome.
MVP.
All right, other reports, item 15B, CISA 9 report.
I have nothing to report. I drove by and the building is still there, but I get nothing.
There, I was just there on Friday, and they're doing great work.
Oh, good.
Item 16, future, oh, sorry.
Maybe, could you ask why we're not getting a report? Thank you, dear.
Maybe you've been removed from the committee.
Probably you're no longer there.
Posted. He isn't rerunning.
Item 16, future agenda items. Anybody? Hearing none, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Zebro, second by Bauman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
No. Peter,
She does have all of us.
I just always.